Hello, welcome. You are listening to Dr. Sushma Singh. Today in Unit 29, Social Movements, Meanings and Dimensions, let us start our lecture with topic Origin of Social Movements. There are several schools of thought on the origin of social movements. The classical model of thought is represented by the versions of mass society, collective behavior, status inconsistency, raising expectations, and relative deprivation. The first is mass society. The mass society theorists like Kornheiser and of the view that due to the lack of an intermediate structure, people in the mass society are not integrated in the society. This leads to alienation, tension, and ultimately social protest. In the mass society, individuals are related to one another not by variety of groups, etc., but by their relation to a common authority, that is the state. In the mass society, in the absence of the independent groups and associations, people lack the resource to ward off the threat to their autonomy. In their absence, people lack the resources to restrain their own behavior as well as that of others. Social autonomination engenders strong feelings of alienation and anxiety, and therefore the disposition to engage extreme behavior to escape from these tensions. It is pointed out that mass society is conditioned by elite domination over the mass. It replaces the democratic rules. In this society, individuals are objectively atomized and subjectively alienated. In this system, people are available for mobilization by elite. To cautious alienation heightens responsiveness to the appeal of mass movement because they provide the occasions for expressing dissentment against what is as well as promises of a totally different world. In short, people who are atomized readily become mobilized. The next is the proponent of theory of status inconsistency. Like Broom and Lansky are of the view that the objective discrepancy between the person's ranking and status dimensions, for example, education, income, occupation, genesis, subjective tensions in the society leading to cognitive dissonance, discontent, and protest. The state of serve status discrepancy, according to these scholars, leads to subjective tensions and dissonance. According to Getschwenders, the set of circumstances described by the status inconsistency hypothesis would produce variety instances of dissonance and dissonance reducing behavior according to the degree of discrepancy between relevant status dimensions. The next is the theory structural strain. As propagated by Schmechler, Lang and Lang, Turner and Keeler suggest that any severe structural strain can help manifest social movement. To Schmechler, the more severe the strain, the more likelihood of social movements. In general, it is argued that there are sequences leading to the manifestation of social movements. These sequences move from structural weakness due to the strain in society, leading to psychological disturbances and ultimately to the manifestation of social movements. There are, however, a variety of reasons behind the structural strain. Individuals experience strain out of disruption in the normal functioning of the society. This disruption may be caused by the process of industrialization, urbanization, migration, increase in the unemployment. The increase in the quantum of disruption is positively related to the manifestation of social movement. In this perspective, social change is the source of structural strain. Social change is described as the stressful because it disrupts the normative order in which the people are accustomed, leading to a feeling of anxiety, fantasy, and hostility. Thus, in general, this theory visualizes social movements as collective relations to such strains that create severe tensions. Some aggregate of these tensions reach to a boiling point, triggering social emergency. This model emphasizes ways on the psychological effect that strain has on individuals than on the desire for a political goal. In this context, it is important to mention here that the Smelson has highlighted the significance of the generalized beliefs. In the conjunction with other 5 factors: structural conduciveness, structural strain, a participating factor, mobilization of the participants for action, and the failure of social control are necessary conditions for a collective episode. Thus, the classical model has observed social movements as responsible to structural strain. It is concerned with the psychological effect that strain has on individual, and that collective participation in the movement is guided by urgent psychological pressure and not by the aim to change the political structure. The next point is the theory of relative deprivation. The theory of relative deprivation has been given a place of prominence in the social movement study. In the Marxian analysis, economic deprivation has been identified to be the prime cause of social conflict among two antagonistic classes, that is, the haves and the have-nots. To Ablare, deprivation has also non-material base, for example, status, behavior, worth, etc. Relative deprivation, that is the discrepancy between legitimate expectations and the reality, is the central point of social movement. Gar has perceived deprivation as a gap between expectations and perceived capabilities, involving 3 generalized sets of values: economic conditions, political power, and social status. The next point is the theory of cultural revitalization. As propagated by Wellesley, expresses the view that the social movements are manifested out are deliberate, organized, and conscious action of the members of the society to construct a more satisfying culture for themselves. To him, the revitalization movement undergo 4 phases of progression, from cultural stability to increased individual stress to cultural distortion and disillusionment to cultural revitalization. It is fit to mention here that no element of strain and deprivation alone can produce a movement unless there is a subjective perception about these objective conditions of deprivation. Ideology, organization, and leadership play crucial role towards the manifestation and sustenance of social movement. We shall be dealing with these issues in the next section of this unit. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.